Well, good morning, everybody. We're normally with Ian, and trust me, he's right here. We're good, but we also have a special guest, Justin, because we have some news that just broke. Justin, would you let the fans know what just occurred on social media?
The Texas Longhorns just got a big-time commitment from 6'8", 310-pound offensive tackle Maximus Wright out of Melissa High School in Melissa, Texas. It's Gladiator, the sequel. Gladiator 3, Maximus to Austin. Listen, this dude, the state is loaded with tackles in 2026. In-state is big. Max Wright is one of the biggest and one of the best. He's got the genes. His dad is another ginormous human being that played football for Oklahoma State, late 90s, early 2000s. He's just a great big kid, big kid. That's the type of frame. If you're going to create somebody in Madden or in college football, that's the frame you actually create. This kid was one of those. Once Texas saw him on campus, when he hit campus, probably, I guess it was about 6 months ago. It was sometime beginning of last summer. Once he hit campus, he was an automatic offer, and it's easy to see watching his tape. It's easy to see when you talk to him. The kid is an absolute pro. He does all the things right. This is a great get. Really, if this is the floor for your 2026 O-line class, buddy, strap in. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of run blocking plays here in the tape. Aggressive guy, deliberate footwork, which I've appreciated as well. And then you said the mental eval is really strong too. That's super important for offensive line. What is it like when you talk to him? Sharp?
Yeah, he's just very I think it comes with the territory of growing up in a house where you're around football. So, and that's what he had with his dad. And so when dads are coaches, when dads are former players, sometimes a lot of times those players just kind of understand it comes with the territory. They kind of understand offensive linemen are their own breed. They are their own kind. They're cliquish. They're the smartest guys in the program.
The funniest, usually the funniest.
Yeah. And his offer sheet proves that out. Stanford, Michigan, Florida. He had some nice ones there, but he has that, mentality of, I'm just going to run you over. I'm just going to take care of business. You want that disposition. He's a great kid, but I wouldn't want to see him in an alley at night because he has that. There's some DJ Campbell there where he's just super aggressive because he knows that kind of comes with the territory playing offensive line at this level.
Good stuff. You think he projects left tackle or right tackle ultimately?
I think either one. I think that's the cool thing. That's his versatility. He could play left tackle. He could play right tackle. He has a kick step, but I also think he's starting to develop more. He's getting better at technique, and that's something he's going to have to work on, especially with pass blocking. You see a lot of run blocking here. He's great at pass blocking, but that's something they're going to have to continue to work on, I think. But man, this guy isn't a finished product. He is a moldable piece of clay that Kyle Flood is going to have fun with. And I asked him, because he called me yesterday when it happened, and I asked him, I said, what was it about Texas? And he goes, well, Kyle Flood took Trevor Gooseby, who's a friend of his and former teammate at Melissa. Yeah. And he said, he took Trevor Gooseby, who wasn't the highest rated guy. He's the highest graded offensive tackle in the SEC now.
Is he?
Yeah. And he's right. And he goes, if Flood can do that, I can't imagine what he can do for me. And so I said, hey, any other visits on the horizon? He goes, man, what's worth a commitment if I'm going to look around? I'm done. I'm going to Texas.
Good stuff. Ian, I see you're muted, but are you seeing anything on the tape you like here?
Well, I like that they didn't settle for most of us, right? They got Maximus. It looks like I spent this whole time working on that, and it was not worth it.
It was in a delivery, Boyd. You were there. You got
a little more oomph.
You got to get that cat off your mind.
Dude, she's still with us. He keeps his balance. He doesn't lunge. It feels like when things get by him, he doesn't overreact. And I know you're saying he's a road grader. He does. People move when he hits them, but it never looks like he's trying that hard. He's just kind of like this guy. Okay, move on to the next guy. It looks very under control.
I like it, like you said, Ian. I like how he works to the second level. It seems like he has an understanding of whatever the run scheme is. Yes. And then, like on the sweep we saw earlier, I think he was pulling on power or counter. He had good athleticism to move behind the line too. I always look for that where they can turn and run. So what is he? I think On Three has him as a 3-star at 6'8", 310. Right. This is great developmental stuff. You want to see where he's at in a couple of years, kind of like put him in the cooker like Gooseby.
He looks like the guys that Notre Dame takes every year, but the rating doesn't reflect it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll change. Maybe it'll change. But does he wrestle, Justin?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Do they have a class that can support?
I was about to say
6'8", 310. There's like him and one guy.
If he does wrestle, it's going to be as probably the Undertaker 2.0.
I was going to say.
I mean, he might come out as Kane's long lost son in the next plot line in the WWF, and so I don't know for sure, but I'm telling you, the football in the household is how he's grown up. And so he just understands the game, like you were talking about with levels and things. He just understands because he's had a dad that has taught him this game. Listen, he is an incredible coach at Melissa and Matt Nally. Unbelievable guy. They do a great job at Melissa. Obviously, Trevor Gooseby. Obviously, a handful of these other kids. Texas likes 2026 linebacker Peyton Porter. That's another one that they're big on. But, this kid, man, he's such a good kid, and he's so strong. And he said it. I said, what was it at first that really caught your attention about Texas? He goes, they were first. He goes, they were the first ones that took a chance on me. He goes, to me, loyalty is big. So I'm going to stay loyal because those guys took a chance on me. So I'm going to take a chance on them. It checks so many boxes.
Hey, JJ, is Texas looking at 3 tackles this year? I'm assuming you're talking offensive tackles. Yeah, what's up there?
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be 3 in this cycle. Max will be 1. Hopefully John Turntine will be another, and hopefully Felix Ojo would be another, and hopefully Zayden Crimpin would be another. That's 4. But also don't forget, Crimpin he's versatile. He can play inside. He can play outside. He's a tackle. Don't get it twisted. But I think there's some Swiss Army knife there as well. They're going to take at least 3 because they took 1 in the last cycle. And let's be completely honest, Nick Brooks isn't an offensive tackle, at least not yet. And so that's a guard that's going to have to be manufactured into a tackle. So they're going to have to get 3. With it being so stacked this year, I could see him taking 4 simply out of don't overthink this. There are 4 unbelievably takeable guys in this cycle. If you can get them, get them.
Well, it's like, man, you should be barring NIL, man. I mean, what more of a track record do you need? Both tackles just went. There's a chance that Goozy's going to be an early round guy. It's like you can sell the tackle position at Texas now.
You can. And Connor, what's crazy? We talked for about 20 minutes yesterday. Not one time did he mention NIL.
Yeah.
Not one time. All it was his future. He's got an opportunity to do something big. He wants to hang on with Kyle Flood. He loves what they're building in Austin. He wants to be loyal. Hey, the last thing we need Max Wright to do is to go to Liberty Hill and take care of Ian's D-line problem. He's that good. I think we should work on it.
Yeah.
He's good at strangling cats.
He can do what if we put that cat at edge, it's over.
Ian has a complex relationship with his
Trust me, I know it. That's why I tease him hardcore. That man is the sweetest human being on the planet, not an animal guy. It's just not his thing. It's nothing against him. Just not an animal guy. Ever since the dog stole his wallet, I don't think he's ever trusted anything on 4 legs.
It changed everything for you.
It does. It did. You should have seen his face. He was shocked.
This is about me, by the way. If anyone's confused, he's not talking about
Yeah. We're not discussing Max Wright. This is about
right. As far as we know, Max is a supreme animal lover.
Yes, of course. Especially the bovine.
Harbors no will towards any canine. I've never threatened to kick a dog.
Oh yeah, we have you on tape doing that, Ian. That was fun. All right, so a bunch of visits too here, Justin, right? From the old visit center on 3.
Yeah, he's made Texas a point of emphasis. You know who was really close in this one was SMU. They are doing a great job recruiting in the state of Texas, especially DFW. I'll tell you who else they're doing a great job with is Javian Osborne. Like SMU, they're parlaying that nice little first year run in the ACC very well, and they do well in NIL. And so I think SMU's here to stake a claim, kind of looking over at Baylor and Texas Tech and A&M, and they're kind of we're the Pony Express is up here too. You know,
it's going to be our new.
James may have hid the 5 hookers, but that place is still thriving, and so you have to consider that.
Their off-field structure is really – I think they're going to be kind of the new TCU thorn in our side, like, you know, where they're going to be snatching key depth and a few starters, you know, and you're going to be like, damn, in 3 years you're going to be frustrated with them, you know.
They do NIL well, but SMU was really the other school that built such a great relationship. I asked him about Oklahoma State, and he said that just wasn't in the cards. But Michigan was pushing, Stanford was pushing, Florida had just offered. He doubled his offer sheet in the last month. Like, he was on the rise, but Texas was there early. They set that foundation, and Max Wright's like, why should we wait any longer to do what I already want to do? And so he called Diabell, and he jumped in.
Justin, how you doing, brother? We didn't even ask how you're doing. Justin seems to be recovered from the Luka trade. He just needed a commitment.
Bill's never going to recover from that.
It's the worst thing ever. It's
no, Justin Wells. I appreciate that. We let's go somewhere. No.
It was brutal watching the presser yesterday.
Yeah. He's in there. I was texting Luka, and I'm like, blink.
I know it looked like a hostage exchange.
It was a proof of life video. Let me tell you something. That guy is absolutely crushed. You know why? Because he's a Max Wright fan. He's been able to watch Max Wright in the DFW area, and now he gets to see him go to Texas and Austin. Luka's fired up, but Luka can't even enjoy this either because he has to live in L.A. and he has to play for the godforsaken LeBron James regime. And so I'm telling you, he's sad, but no more Luka. That'll throw off my day.
Let me tell a quick story. See if I can make Justin cry.
Oh, God dang it.
I think part of it is like how much Dallas fell in love with Luka. So I distinctly remember we were in Dallas for Big 12 Media Days back in right after the summer after he was drafted by the Mavericks. And we met up my bud, the late Jonathan Sharks, at a bar near our hotel. And we were just drinking some local beers. I wish I could remember what it was. It was delicious. I've never found it since.
We were in the Omni.
No. It wasn't that time. It was this bar that was right next to the hotel. And Justin and much of Dallas were kind of like wait and see on Luka. I don't know. It's like
I was not wait and see on Luka.
You were a little wait and see.
No. You better tell stories accurately.
Then
I was number 1 on Luka the day he was drafted when they made the flip 5 minutes after with Trae Young. I was 100% a Luka Doncic true.
Well, for whatever reason, I turned to Sharks and I was like, hey, help me sell Luka to Justin. Maybe there's somebody else with us that was more hesitant. I don't know. I turned to Sharks and I go, hey, help me sell Luka here. Explain the magnitude of Luka coming to Dallas. And he was real excited, but he's like restrains himself a little bit and he goes, well, he could be like Hito Turkoglu. And I lost it. And I was like, Hito Turkoglu, what are you doing to me? Wait, he's going to be way better than Hito Turkoglu. And he's like, well, we'll see.
There was some hesitation because he was an 18-year-old.
But I was trying to get him to sell Luka hard, and then he just immediately says Hito Turkoglu.
Yeah.
It was a key part of the finals team, but I was still like, no.
Yeah, Jarks was the man. No, don't get it twisted. Jarks was the man, but it took a little bit of the area to get on board. I had zero problem with it because I had seen the international pipeline. When I've seen a 16-year-old go into a professional arena that's much more hostile than you'll ever see in college basketball or the NBA, where the guards are having guns and things are going unbelievably nuts. The dude's winning the MVP in a pro league. Like, you don't do that.
Let's not do a disservice to the memory of Churks, though. Churks, you can go find all of his public podcasts and writings. When the Mavs got Luka, first he was like, this guy should be the number one pick. It's pretty obvious. And then when the Mavs got him, he was like, this is a coup. This is such a win for Dallas. Then he just soft played it just a little bit in the bar when I was expecting him to make a soliloquy, and just left me hanging on the rim. So.
Yeah, the Turkaloo was too much, but hey, Stephen A. and others, can they see the Mavs going to the finals this year? No, Stephen A. doesn't believe that. That's Nico Harrison telling him, please say something nice because the city of Dallas wants to kill me. And Stephen A. Smith is being the puppet right now for the agent and for Nico, and it's not working. They won't come close to the finals. I'll be surprised if they make it past the first round of the playoffs.
They may not make the playoffs.
The organization is so confused right now. They don't know if they're coming or going. It's just over. The franchise is over.
While we're in this rare moment of Ian and Justin agreeing about basketball, last night the Mavs lost a close game where the Sixers at the end of the game just started doubling Kyrie once he crossed midcourt. And once Kyrie has to give up the ball, that's it. There's no one else that can do anything. Everyone else has been living in Luka's orbit, and not just because he was so big and doughy. The dude was everything to their half-court offense.
Ian, you said it best the day after. You said, "Oh, defense wins championships. So does having a cheat code once he crosses half court, and it changes the dynamic of every defense that ever plays against the Mavericks." Ian was spot on. Yes, he's right too. We rarely agree about basketball. We're right about this. Max Wright, also a basketball player, good hands. Not so much Luka skills, but as big as Luka. If we want to be honest. Max Wright and Luka are kind of similar in size. Let's hope that Max has much more a better health track than Luka's had. Then again, Luka's playing 40 minutes a game for the last 5 years. It's wearing on him.
Yeah. Justin, before we get out of here, quick question. I feel like Daniel Cruz was being talked about being next up at center, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Was that Ian or me?
No, it's you, Justin.
Yeah. So with Daniel Cruz, you want every year to be a certain developmental part. You want him to kind of get to that next level. We don't know if Daniel's just there just yet. Apparently, Connor Robertson is a little bit further along. I know that they're looking at Nate Kibble playing some center as well. We know Cole Hudson in a pinch could go in there and start. I think could be just fine and actually do really well if need be. But this is a little concerning to me. Not bad, but I'm watching this because Daniel Cruz has an immense upside. He was an easy center take of his class, of his cycle. And so I think sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for some of these guys. It might take another year. Excuse me. This spring is going to be huge. Okay. For Daniel and for Kibble and for Robertson, they know what they have in Cole Hudson. I think they're solid there. I also think if a pretty good to really good center were to hit the portal in the spring, they would probably run to it and see if there was interest. And that is partly because Daniel Cruz's trend line isn't exactly where Texas fans and Kyle Flood and those guys would like it right now. But give him a chance. It takes a while. He's only been there a year. Let him figure it out. In the meantime, Texas has 3 or 4 other options, and that's kind of where they're going right now. They want Daniel Cruz to step up and take that spot. They really do. I mean, the kid's got probably as much upside as anybody. But you know what? Jackson Christian is an early enrollee from the class of 2025, and he's got some center ability. And so it's going to be a competition, and they're going to go with the best one there, obviously. I think Cole Hudson's going to wind up being the guy, but let's wait and see. Daniel Cruz, this spring is big for you. Let's see what you can do.
Hey, but before you let Justin go, I saw Max Wright when he attended an event last summer. I had to do Justin's job for him one day. What were you doing again, Justin? Like East East Texas brunch or something. No, when I had to fill in for you at that Texas event with Charlie.
Texas event with Charlie.
Well, anyway, I was like totally out of my element.
Oh, June. Was it the summer recruiting pool party thing? That's right. Yeah. So you did see him up. So I remember Ian was like this.
Yeah, I was like,
Top of his mouth got sunburned.
Who are these people I'm actually supposed to like need to get quotes from? Like, which of these guys actually matter? So I'm kind of trying to size them up. And I saw him get off the bus, and I was like, surely.
Probably. Yeah, no one floods type. Yeah, that'll be one.
And he interacts exactly like he plays. He has a quiet confidence about him. I asked him what position they were looking at him to play at Texas. And he was like, I assume tackle, and he just kind of like smirks a little bit, but he is a big kid. Very likable.
Very likable. Very likable.
That's a good get, man. Especially whenever that's going to be NFL size. He's already at NFL height. He's going to be at NFL weight. He's already at 310 it listed. He's going to be there
if he gets to 320, 325, 330 and continue functional mass, doesn't lose, lateral quickness, things of that sort, doesn't get stiff.
Yeah.
You're looking at Lane Johnson. You're looking at a kid that grew up in East Texas, kind of small town, but it took time for him to kind of fill into that body. He was a quarterback at a junior college before he ever played offensive line.
Wow,
and so, but it's similar body frames, it's similar mentalities, and I think that would be a pretty good comp.
I think he's also naturally powerful and flexible, all the things that really matter. So like by the end of his time at Texas, Tristan Nicholson looked like a god of war. If you just saw him like lifting or something, right?
Yeah, off the field, definitely.
Yeah, but it didn't translate because he just didn't have that natural power, flexibility. He was just a big guy that was lifting 24/7. There's a big difference between like a 22-year-old enormous person lifting, strength and conditioning, blah blah blah. They're gonna look good, right? Off the hoof, they're gonna look good.
Yeah,
but he's got the natural power and whatnot. Wright does that will actually. It's not just going to be a big person.
All right, actual final question.
He fits his frame. That's what I like. He's not uncoordinated. Some guys are like young gazelles when they're or like a baby giraffe in a sense when they're that tall, that big, and it takes them a while to get in their coordination. Maximus Wright is very coordinated already.
Final question, Justin. Does he have long arms? Seems that's the only thing that matters to half of the draft analysts.
Mr. Wells, I will have to check on that. I mean, to me, he's got a reach. If you look at his tape, it looks great, but I don't have numbers. I don't know a wingspan. I couldn't tell you that, but just the fact that he's that big and that long, I think the reach is going to be probably going to be okay.
I don't know if he's really 6'8".
I think he's more 6'7". I've stand in front of him a dozen times. I would give him 6'7". If I was playing basketball, we're playing pickup ball, I'd say you're the post player.
Yeah. He was also the summer after his sophomore year when I saw him. To me, it looked like he might actually have a good wingspan, but whether he does or not, it doesn't matter. When you're 6'6", you have a 6'6" wingspan usually, or better. Usually not much worse. So he's fine.
His wingspan is as long as two of my sons.
Yeah.
Side by side. And Alexander's getting tall.
All right. Justin, thank you so much for coming on.
So I don't get to stay on anymore? I don't get to hang out? Like, what was he going to talk about today?
You must leave. We're talking about outside receivers, why they matter, and then we're going to give Ian another go at making fun of OU's offseason. So a lot of positive.
Good. Hey, give some love to my boy Parker Livingstone.
We will. We will talk about him.
Outside guy, and I promise you, he is going to have a big spring. Look, don't be surprised by the beautiful stash and the long curls. Don't be fooled by the twang in his voice. He can run, he can go, and he can catch. And I think this spring is going to be big for my boy Parker Livingstone. Ryan Wingo, biggest offseason of his life this spring. He's got to learn how to fight through contact. If that kid can fight through contact, get past the jam, try not to be held because they're going to hold him for the next 3 years, man, his release, it's going to be fun. Gentlemen, I've enjoyed it. Max Wright to Texas. Come see us at InsideTexas.com as soon as you're done watching this video because we have a ton of information, quotes from Max Wright, evaluations, all the fun stuff. Texas got a commitment today. Now I got to get on the road, and it's a secret where I'll be. You should look on Twitter around 2 or 3 o'clock because there's going to be some more cool stuff coming to InsideTexas.com.
Is it going to be anywhere near where Homer lives?
Yeah.
Well. One more thing. How is Parker against the press?
Ian's so bad at letting the person do the walk-off excellent thing. Ian's always like, and one more question, totally ruins the flow every time. Go ahead, Ian. Ask him the question.
Do you know how Livingston is against the press?
He didn't deal with it that much in high school. And I don't really have a sample size for him in college yet. But I'll say this, he was a baseball player first. And so he has an ability to use his hands. He has an ability to be coordinated and to the point. He was an incredible outfielder, good third baseman, good pitcher when he needed to be. And so it remains to be seen on that one. But he's quick. He's got bigger for a kid 6'4", his feet chop. He did the tire drill as a kid. You can tell. Maybe not like the Shipleys, but nice. And so I think Parker's going to be okay. Again, this spring, huge for the wide receiver room. DeAndre Moore, you know what you have. Ryan Wingo, you're getting more from. It's those other guys, Aaron Butler, Parker Livingstone. There's plenty of guys to talk about. And don't forget Khalil Lockett's going to be playing that outside guy. His hands are the size of Kevin McHale's. It's almost a foot long, and that's a reason that kid does not drop balls. So
awesome. Thank you, Justin. We appreciate you, brother.
Peace out.
Peace.
All right. Connor, no one's going to remember your transitions, but they will remember that last bit of info I squeezed out of Justin.
You do it on Deep Dive. Paul will stick this perfect ending where you can end the show, and then you're like, what you're saying. One more question. All right. Before we keep going, guys, we do need to get to some sponsors here. So let's hear from David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Thank you, LC. All right, Ian, we're going to develop your importance of outside receiver thesis, something that you've been talking about for a while. Let's discuss.
Yeah.
This is a nice thesis statement. The most important piece of every offense is the outside receiver. So it's a bold claim, Ian. Let's develop it. Why is that? Why not the slot? Why not the quarterback? Why not the center?
So late in 1917, after years of stagnation and trench warfare, it was eventually realized by the Germans, regrettably, that just hammering in the trenches was not a winning strategy. And they developed infiltration, the idea of infiltration tactics. Just like you sneak somebody behind the line, you compromise their structure behind them, and then the trenches will break apart and the whole formation is thrown into disorder as they try to adjust. So they would train guys to sneak across no man's land, right? Give them everything they could carry to do maximal damage, but to be able to travel in small groups without a lot of equipment or vehicles or whatever. And then again, regrettably, developed this theory further and launched the Blitzkrieg offensive that conquered France in 6 weeks or whatever it was in World War II with the same theory and Army infrastructure. The reason I mention all this is that it gets at the heart of football and strategy, which is that the temptation for the bigger, stronger school with the bigger, stronger team is just to hammer away in the trenches, and it's like, we're going to win because we've stockpiled the most big guys, the most powerful running backs, whatever. And in reality, the best way to win in the trenches is to avoid playing in the trenches. It's to infiltrate and attack. The other metaphor I like is that when you have a wide receiver that can run down the field and get open, he can score a touchdown on any given play. Like the dreaded post route, which Texas has not maximized in recent years, right? The post route is the ultimate touchdown play. It's the guy just like running down the middle across the quarterback's face at the end zone. If you can score on one play, throwing to one guy, then it completely compromises the defense. It's like in chess when you're in checkmate, on like 4-move checkmate. And
I'm great at getting checked immediately, so I understand that.
You're like if I move here, I can get this piece, and then my piece here is safe because he's protected by this guy. And while you're doing that, the other guy's thinking king, checkmate.
Right.
Or like the queen trap. It doesn't matter if you lose your queen if it results in checkmate.
Right.
Okay. The wide receiver is the piece in modern football. Well, this is just how it's going to be, I think, in future football too. The outside receiver achieves that better than any other position.
Yeah, so you're talking about receivers slipping behind the defense can break everything and all the stuff you try to do, right? Imposing your will. Why does that not count for the tight end or the slot?
A lot of reasons. The tight end and the slot are in the middle of the field, so there's a lot more bodies around them. Defenses tend to load up in the middle of the field. If you play slot receiver, you're usually being covered by a combination of different people. And you're within the scrum still. You're stretching out the trenches a little bit, but you're still in the general scrum. It's not the same as a guy that's on the outside, where if he takes two people outside with him, now you're 10 on 9 in the box, right?
So slot's easier because you're being handled by a combination of like a nickel outside linebacker or a safety, right? Kind of these rotations of guys depending on your coverages. And then also you have a two-way go, right? So it's like the slot theoretically has a easier job than a pure outside receiver.
The slot receiver is an easier position to play, is what you're getting at, which I also explained in the article. When you're the slot receiver, so much of what the slot receiver does works off of run-pass conflict, which is like you have a two-way go. You have more space because you're inside. You can go right. You can go left. The people that are across from you have to concern themselves, at least partially, with the run game. They have run game responsibilities. And consequently, they're also built to handle run game responsibilities in the box. They can't be built and they can't train exclusively on matching your movements in coverage. If you have a good run game and a good quarterback, your slot receiver will be a killer if he's any good at all. Because it's just so easy to get him into advantageous spots. But it just doesn't have the same impact as somebody outside. The outside receiver, the guy across from him is a quarterback who's the most athletic and reactive player on the field. And his entire specialty is just you. So he knows all your moves. He's studying your moves all week. He knows how to play you, how to play your leverage. He may be studying you psychologically, maybe trying to figure out just the thing to say to throw you off or get in your head.
They'll go on your Facebook. They'll figure out who your girlfriend is. Like they do. There's some weird psychological warfare going on there.
Absolutely. And it's just a one-on-one, and he just lives to ruin everything you want to do and everything you want to be.
And he might know where you're going, right? If you're split out wide, he knows you're not turning to the sideline. So you're either going up or inside. So you got a smart athlete that's twitchy, and you also don't have the options to trick him necessarily. You're going to have to develop a lot of skill in your releases.
So this comes up all the time. I'll talk about the supremacy of the outside receiver, and people will mention a slot. They'll be like, well, this team doesn't have an outside receiver. And they're like, well, they have a slot. Why doesn't the slot count? Because it's easier and it's just not the same. Like a lot of these little dudes that are killers in the slot, if you put them outside where they have to deal with those corners and getting jammed and all that, they're not the same people.
Yeah, I agree. And like you're saying too, once you get into the playoff structure, right, when you're facing more NFL caliber corners, you need that's what makes a Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State special, right?
It also go ahead.
Well, and they can go up and get it if you have a good outside receiver. That's a little different than a slot.
Yeah. So they can go if a cornerback, if a dominant outside receiver like Jeremiah Smith is just going to dominate the corner, and you can just throw up the ball and he's just going to pull it out of the air and score, you're just kind of helpless.
Yeah. Unless you devote good resource, like you handle it kind of like Texas, right?
Or you double him. Yeah, and you have to live shorthanded elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. Matthew Golden was obviously essential for Texas down the stretch because he offered that. He hit like multiple fades where Quinn Ewers just dropped back and threw to a spot. And to do that, to be able to drop back and throw to a spot and beat a zero blitz, you have to be able to trust that your guy is going to be in that spot where you're throwing, and then that his hands will secure the catch when it gets to him. And that's just not a given.
Yeah, we had it luckily with AD, and we had it with Golden, and they were really important parts of our offense.
Essential. And more on that, but also when you get to the playoff level, running the ball gets so hard. Mm-hmm. Because Texas has seen this, right? Texas ran for like 300 yards on Clemson. They ran over a bunch of teams, but then they played a couple teams where it was like, oh wait, the run game doesn't work anymore. And not only would it not work anymore, it's not like it would like marginally decline.
Right, there was no run game.
Over a freaking cliff, and it was just gone.
Yep.
And there's a lot of now that the playoffs are expanded, it's not necessarily like that every week. But there's a lot of teams in the playoffs. They're there because teams couldn't just run on them. That's why they're there in the playoffs.
Right.
But they don't have answers for the guy that just can get to a spot and pull the ball out of the sky. There's no level of roster cohesion and stacking of talent that can answer for that. It's a trump card.
When we hear about like 50-50 balls, right? Jeremiah Smith's not 50-50. I mean, the favor goes to him. It's like 60-40 or 70-30 balls, And so it's like we always say 50-50 like it's a coin flip. Once you get one of those wide receivers, it's not a coin flip and it goes into your favor. And they can zero blitz you all day. The quarterback doesn't need a lot of skill. He just needs to be, hey, I'm going to hit you on the sideline at the 30-yard line. Get there.
Yeah. And Justin was giving us gold about Ryan Wingo. He was like, he's struggling when he gets jammed. He's got to get through contact. If you watch in the playoffs last year and down the stretch of the season when he had to play more, Wingo was routinely getting jammed up and then trying to win inside.
Right.
And then Quinn would throw him shots like in the red zone or in other parts of the field, and they were never connecting. So it wasn't a 50-50. It was like I want to say 20-80, but it was like 0-100.
Right. They're not catchable.
It was like 595. They could never connect.
Yeah.
Because Quinn is throwing to a spot and Wingo couldn't get there.
You think Wingo ever got jammed in high school? I mean, I bet they were playing him 30 yards off. I mean, maybe at camps, but like that's the thing too for these elite receivers, man. They don't face that a lot until they get into college. Sometimes even the pros.
Apparently not Parker Livingstone either, from what Justin was saying.
Yeah.
As he was able to elucidate due to my last minute question. We'll get into this in a second, but this is like the big question for Texas is, do they have the guy that can get open? And then when Arch throws to the spot with precision, having been groomed for the quarterback throne since he was a child, when he throws to the perfect spot, is the receiver actually going to be there? You know, it's not up to the quarterback. He can only throw and trust.
Correct.
Especially in college. Like,
yeah, it's up to the receiver to get there.
Yeah.
It's an over-the-shoulder punt sometimes, and you got to be able to make it happen. And you got to be able to adjust, right? Turn around. That's what Golden could do. He could run straight, see the ball, turn around, leap, do a backflip, catch it. That's the skill that's going to matter.
I work with this with my son in the cul-de-sac by the house all the time. It's like he loves running go balls, but tracking the ball in the air, he's only 9, so
yeah.
But tracking the ball in the air is like you watch kids, watching my son try to do it in real time becomes clear. Like, this is like one of the most challenging skills in the game.
Yeah.
You don't have to be huge to do it. Like, I could teach him how to be left tackle for days, and then he's going to be like 5'8", 130 in high school, and it's not going to matter, right?
Yeah.
But the skill level of tracking the ball in the air and pulling it out of the sky is like, there's a reason that those guys are just
why they're skill athletes, right? Texas outside receiver room. We talked a little Wingo. Justin, good point. Needs to be able to get off the jam, and the jam can't affect his route so much that him and the quarterback are totally out of sync. So that's going to be the big thing there. But as far as NFL athleticism, man, Wingo is special. Just watching him move, even without the ball, man, him move. He's going to be a special guy. Now it's up to the mental side of the position, knowing the offense, knowing how to get the right releases, knowing how to deal with good corners. All of that should come in due time. So we're good with Wingo. We have a question here from Ryan. We have a couple. I'll get to your Khalik question too when we get to Khalik. You want to see Wingo slot reps this year. He looked really good in the slot at the All-American Bowl. Matchup nightmare out of the slot. I mean, Sark will naturally do that occasionally, I'm sure, but
yeah, some. But then this is our point: is that
Ian doesn't want to put that level of talent in an easier spot when he could use it outside.
Yeah, you don't need Ryan Wingo to have an effective slot receiver.
Yeah,
you could put any half-decent receiver in the slot. In this offense, with the run game and the misdirection and the designing plays and the play action and the run pass conflict, if you're not a good slot in this offense, you're a bum. Okay? So, like, think back to 2020 Texas. 2020 was maybe the most frustrating year of my entire life. It was probably for most people. But on top of all the things that were stressing everybody out about 2020 was that Texas had like 7 guys that could be productive with Sam Ehlinger throwing them the ball in the slot, and absolutely nobody that could get open against a cornerback outside. And we're just watching. I was watching Ehlinger's career be wasted. I was watching Ehlinger's legacy as a Longhorn great be tarnished.
Who are our outside guys then? I'm horrible remembering years. Like, when someone says 2020, I don't remember.
They had extendo clip in and out of outside in the slot, Joshua Moore. They had Jared Wiley was awesome when they flexed him out in the slot, but it was like, we can't do that often because that's where everybody else needs to go. They had White Lightning from Arizona, Jake Smith, also primarily slot in and out of the lineup. Jordan Whittington, same freaking thing. And then they took Brendan Schooler, Patriots special team ace, and Tariq Black, who looked like he ran a 4.9 that year.
Yeah, dude.
As the outside receivers, they did not have Lil Jordan, Rex St. Charles. Lil Jordan had just departed for the NFL.
Did they have Brennan Eagles?
If a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? I don't know. Maybe.
If you didn't make an impact, who cares?
Yeah, he was a bust in this regard too. He couldn't get open outside. He couldn't get to the right spot. 2019 was awful too because they had Colin Johnson could do it, but he was in and out of the lineup. And then they tried to put that huge tight end out there, and that was a bust. This has plagued Texas many years. Same thing in 2009. They lost Quan Cosby, so they had to move Shipley outside a lot because nobody else could get open outside. And they're like, why don't you put Shipley back in the slot where he was completely dominant? It's like, well, because the other team won't have to cover anybody else.
All right, so Wingo, special athleticism, but we got to see him put it all together. How many did this? He's asking about Wingo. How many times this year did he have his man beat and didn't get thrown to or overthrown? Yeah, for sure. That happened too. That was the problem is like if we can get Wingo synced up, making his plays and the quarterback connecting, which I think Arch is going to be better at. Let's just be frank. It's going to make a huge difference.
But even if he was, like, what makes a great receiver, it's not can you get open sometimes when it doesn't matter. It's when the game is on the line and the quarterback needs to throw it, are you going to be where you need to be to catch the ball?
Yeah.
So that's where he has to be. By the way, on the value of this as a predictive tool, in 2023, I was like, Texas is going to go to the playoffs because they have Adonai Mitchell now. They have Xavier Worthy, but they have Adonai Mitchell. And then they have these amazing defensive tackles. And that's the piece. That's the most important piece. They have it. So they're going to be a lot better. A lot of us Texas people were optimistic that year. So it's not like this was an amazing call for an Inside Texas writer to predict Texas to go to the playoffs. But they were coming off 8-5. And it wasn't like obvious that this was like the Texas that we now recognize from the last 2 years. I also at the last minute put Florida State in my playoffs because they had Johnny Wilson and they had Keon Coleman. And it was like they have two guys on the outside. This is like the most important piece, and they have two guys like that. And then in 2024, I shorted Florida State hard because I was like, they lost those two guys, and they did not find anyone like them to replace them. Right? People on the website have been pushing back. They're like, well, Alabama had Ryan Williams, so they didn't win the title. You're obviously wrong. It's like, what? Well, when Alabama was 9-3, what would their record have been if they didn't have Ryan Williams?
It is funny how we talk about Alabama like they're just total failures. They went 9-3 with year one with a coach.
After losing the greatest college football.
I know. People are so absurd.
And like half their defensive roster in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not getting any pushback in the comments to fuel me, but I feel very strongly about this take.
All the viewers agree with you, Ian. All right, so Parker Livingstone, that's an interesting outside potential. We need to see it there. I like the idea he was an outfielder. Big size, 6'4", 195, and also long speed, verified track long speed. Aaron Butler, interesting athlete, moved up off the scout, earned his position in the actual rotation, practice rotation. I like the documentary they did on him. Go watch it. I think it was Overtime or somebody. Go watch it. He's an interesting kid. We don't know what we have in Freddie Dubose. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, he didn't practice last year. He had like an injury.
He was injured, yeah.
We don't know.
So we just don't know. Jamie French, Kalik Lockett, two really impressive freshmen. I think we had a question here asking, is Kalik a 60, 65 guy? Yeah, Kalik theoretically man, he does some crazy stuff. He like talking about ball tracking and be able to snatch it out of the air. Kalik has a ton of that.
It's also we think he'll be good, but another thing that makes it hard in confounding out of high school is that not very many high school teams put the caliber of athlete that can actually shut you down at corner.
No,
they're putting him at. They're giving him the ball. Right. Or sometimes you even see like amazing corners play safety in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
or they play wide receiver, or they play quarterback.
Like South Lake Carroll used to have this deal where they'd have like one elite athlete in the secondary every year, and he would play a different position every week based on
who your best guy was.
Yeah, so he'd be like safety one week, but then he might be like corner the next if the other team actually had a guy they could throw to. Garrett Wilson, too, at Lake Travis would play corner when they needed him to. And then obviously offense, he'd touch the ball like every third play or something.
I feel strongly about Kalik and Jamie translating. I like their hands. I like their understanding. I think they're smart. And I think if the release doesn't go great, they can still make the play. And that's important to me. Like if they're, say you're quote unquote covered, if you can still make a catch in that situation, I like you. Then we have athlete Michael Terry.
they're not just fast guys. That's what you're saying. Like a lot of times, the 4 or 5, like Brennan Eagles was enormous and fast.
Yeah.
So it was like, obviously, this is the best receiver prospect, and then he couldn't get open.
Right. And so it's like, I think they're skilled. They don't just have a trait that NFL guys like. They're not 6'7" or run a 4.2. Michael Terry on the outside here is interesting. I think me and Ian are both not a believer of that. I think me and Ian both think he's going to end up working his way to the slot or even maybe tight end. But he is a special athlete, so maybe he proves us wrong. We just think he's probably more of a fit on the interior. What do you think, Ian?
Well, my dream is for him to end up outside because it's the most important position, and he's supposed to be an elite freak athlete. So where do I want the elite freak athlete? Well, outside receiver if he can.
Yeah.
Right now they have him at running back and wide receiver is the initial plan. So obviously not outside. That's kind of what he did in high school. He played some outside receiver. He played some slot. He played wildcat quarterback. He played running back. He's very like nifty. So I could see him as a slot. I've had people vehemently disagree with me about this, but he doesn't seem all that physical to me. He just seems big. So I like him outside, but you could also see how they might think like this kid's going to end up being 230 pounds or something, and we should teach him how to block, split, outside zone, play him a tight end or something. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And then Dalen McCutcheon, also someone you guys should not sleep on. We hear good things about him too. So, but he might end up in the slot as well. So this is kind of just us taking stock there. We have an intriguing room of guys. Just nothing is proven, right? But we got NFL athletes in here. We got size. We got speed. It's just who's going to rise at this point when we've had such surety at the position the past couple of years. And, who knows, in the spring we might end up taking something that's more of a sure thing. But it's going to be interesting to watch them rise.
I'm nervous about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you basically said I boosted Texas because we had sure things at wide receiver. And when we don't have sure things, I think that ends up discounting you probably a win or two, right?
Yeah, or worse. It's not like this team can fall back on their proven tight end and running back, right?
Correct.
I mean, they might still add somebody in the spring portal. From what it sounds like, I think they really like these guys. But when? The timeline is what matters because Arch Manning is quarterback right now.
Right.
Like, so they need to be.
Yeah, I have no question these guys can be players in 2 or 3 years. Who's going to show up this year? Yeah.
Are they going to be open in Columbus?
Yeah.
And are they going to be open in the Cotton Bowl? So Ryan Nelson, they need spring additions. They may need just like one sure thing outside guy, which is a big deal. Like that's not a small thing to get a sure thing outside guy.
You can though. I mean, we've literally done it the past couple of years. All right.
Yeah.
Before we hit OU, guys, let's hear a word from Luxe.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
All right, we got some victory laps on OU, which the fans really love. Let us view. So OU had an interesting offseason, right? There's a couple things that stuck out to me, right? Of course, kind of their coordinator gets up and leaves to West Virginia. That was pretty strange. They had the Jim Knowles saga. That didn't work out. That was strange. Brent Venables ends up re-grabbing on to the defense as a defensive coordinator, which is generally the sign of a coach struggling and trying to give a semblance of control back to himself. It's kind of an emotional soothing activity.
What if he weren't already the DC, then the other guy wouldn't have left.
Right.
The other guy left because Brent Venables was already the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, with Allie, he wanted to be his own man, I guess, without any inside info there. So he officially releases a graphic into which it says that he is now the defensive coordinator.
I have this like evergreen tweet now that goes like Brent Venables has fired Brent Venables as defensive coordinator. The replacement is expected to be Brent Venables.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true. And then what they do is they go and poach the OC out of Washington State in a deal with Mateer, the quarterback, who I like, which I think was good. And then, but what's also been funny on our side is like the caliber of coaches they're bringing. OU's acting like they're like a bargain brand. Like everything's like in the value bin. You know, they're like everything's coming for. We're taking this coach that you've never heard of from No Name U, and then don't forget this new player that transferred. He's from FCS. Blah blah blah. It doesn't feel like it feels like OU is bringing in coaching and player talent like they're a mid-major and not Oklahoma right now. And they've always had a little bit of this value. Like that's kind of what the intelligence of Oklahoma was, is they were able to kind of find these diamonds in the rough, right? These walk-on Baker Mayfield or whatever. But it seems like they're over-reliant there and they're not staying in the fights they need to be in to compete at the top of the SEC. That's my opinion, Ian, but you're the one that wrote a whole article on it. Let's go through it.
Well, let's talk about what we were just talking about, which is the supremacy of outside receiver, and then what you're just getting at, which is the Oklahoma's resource allocation. Where are they devoting their resources? So we all know it's been a favorite topic of Inside Texas that they, in our estimation, wildly overpaid for Demonic Williams, a defensive tackle last year, which then cost them Jermaine Lole, who offered Texas probably
the same results for a third of the price,
for whatever the court whatever fraction of the price. They're throwing $3 million a year at Jim Knowles, which didn't work, but they did offer it. Expensive offensive coordinator. Got to pay that guy a lot to risk his career, even at 29.
Well, he might only be there a year, you know.
And from what I've heard, John Mateer's price tag ended up being, they thought they were just going to get him at a discount. It sounds like. And then
they started the Miami. Then what was it? Miami was involved late. They started jacking up the price towards the end there. It seemed.
And North Carolina had Bill Belichick supposedly had Tom Brady calling him and pitching him on being coached by Belichick in North Carolina, along with a good package. And I think Washington State offered him over $1 million to stay. So it cost presumably OU over $1 million to acquire him for a year. Which that's not crazy. That's not like
for a proven quarterback that's older.
Good, yeah, but it was not a discount, right?
Yeah.
Is the point. Now, where are they paying for all of this? Well, let me read to you their wide receiver depth chart, Connor.
Is it in the article?
No.
Okay.
No, but I have it here.
Okay, good.
Okay. They have Deion Burks in the slot, who transferred from Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
He barely played last year because he got injured. Outstanding talent, great. But guess what? He plays the slot, and he's 5'9".
And we just discussed why we don't care as much.
Right? We don't care as much. We don't care. He'll be really good until they play the games that really matter against teams that can effectively load up the middle of the field because they don't worry outside, and then he'll disappear. And then they'll be like, what happened to our offense? Where's Deion Burks? So outside, they have Jaden Gibson, who
got hurt.
They liked going into last year, but tore his ACL and has done nothing, and is now coming off an ACL. Great. They have Keontae Lewis, 6'2", 185, came from an FCS school where he was not a superstar, decently involved in the offense at an FCS school. They have Giovanni Gibson, 6'2", 205, about whom you would say the same thing, basically. Not super heavily involved, but reasonably involved as an outside receiver for an FCS school. And then maybe on the outside they could play, although he'd probably play slot, Isaiah Satania from Arkansas.
Satania, he's a good player.
Good player, did some pretty good things at Arkansas last year. Nothing amazing.
Yeah, he's a quick little slotty guy, but you have Deion Burks, right? So what are you going to do? You go 10 personnel and you play him, that kind of thing?
I mean, if I read to you the list of tight ends that they have, then
you're going to be in 10 personnel.
10 personnel is probably the right answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
10 personnel used to be like, he really used to throw teams off when you would base in 10 personnel, like in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Not anymore, Connor. That doesn't really, people don't really do that anymore. They like to have the tight ends so that they can get in and out of 10 and 11 and run the ball.
Yeah.
So basically they have Jags at outside receiver, Connor. All this tumult and investment around the program, and they are planning to put nothing at outside receiver for their expensive new quarterback and their make or break offensive season.
Yeah, Matera is going to be throwing to the slot and running.
Yes. Or in the injury tent.
Yeah. And I like him, man. I think he's an intriguing quarterback. I think he's a good player, but you have to give him weapons.
You should have gone to North Carolina or Miami.
Yeah.
It was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the spring they got to poach somebody, get the agents going, and know that we're going to pay big for a big outside receiver. But it doesn't seem like they're making those decisions well right now.
Their receiver pool, their receiver room looks like Washington State's.
Right.
Only Washington State had one outside guy that was legitimately very good and is going to maybe the NFL. It's hard to keep those guys at Washington State. But they look like, I swear, Brent Venables' vision for the Oklahoma offense is a couple big perfunctory investments at like quarterback, like 5-star Jackson Arnold, maybe a Fasusi, maybe a Mateer. And then for everything else, he's like, just run the veer and shoot, and let's get some instant oatmeal offense.
Yeah, they're not building an offense.
The packet is the seasoning packet is like a quarterback and maybe one expensive lineman, and then you add water, and then voila, we'll have a great offense, right?
Yeah.
All right, now don't bother me. I got to figure out how to stop the run with these smaller defensive tackles I have, right? That's what it feels like. It's been like every year in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And as Riley's talent on offense has left the program, they're just like, reusing the same coffee beans to try to make something out of this.
Yeah. What do you think too about, okay, so we know how you feel about the offense, and I agree with you. There's not much going on there. We like the quarterback. Quarterback's not enough. And also a good outside receiver can elevate quarterbacks too. It's not necessarily a quarterback will elevate the outside receiver.
Right.
So it's
throwing in the spot. The guy's either there or he's not.
Yeah. So what you're going to focus on is shut down Deion Burks with quality athletes over the middle and make sure Mateer doesn't leak out of the pocket. And if you can do that, you're going to have a fairly good time with the Oklahoma offense this year, most likely, according to their personnel. So, okay, we have that. Then we have –
they'll be hurting for big plays if they can't win outside.
Yeah. And so and then we have on the defensive side, we said Zach Alley left. Interesting, right? Assuming he wants to be his own man. They have this flirtation with Jim Knowles, which was strange the whole time, knowing that Venables likely can't keep from trying to control the defense. And then Venables announces that he's back on defense, which is not the problem at Oklahoma. So it's these just seem like they're treading water. This feels like what it felt like at Texas for 10 years. Now, hopefully OU. Now we need OU to make the wrong hire again. That's crucial. That's where you really disappear for a decade. But right now, like all these moves are like maybe, hey, let's watch the tape of this FCS guy and convince ourselves that that he's the future, which how many times does that happen? This all feels familiar. And that's why I think when we're making fun of OU, it's like we just went through this kind of rationalization process, right? Let's flip corner. It's got to be coordinators. It's got to be this. And really, the problem is the top of the org right now is not making good decisions or understanding what they're seeing and what, or even how to fill these holes.
Yeah, my favorite part of all this is that they sold 2 offseason narratives within a week of each other. One, we're going to hire a general manager so Brent Venables can focus on coaching up the defense and coaching up the team. And then simultaneously, we're going to hire almost simultaneously, we're going to hire a top defensive coordinator so Brent Venables can go to the top and oversee more of the big picture.
Right.
It's like, well, those don't go together. And there's like this idea that like these coaches, like people do this with Sark. They're like, if you just hire a coordinator, then he'll take on more of the big picture stuff, or whoever it is like that. If you just give him a coordinator and take away his call sheet, he'll focus on the big picture stuff. No, they won't. I mean, Sark does because he's already doing that. So he's a bad example, but
they might just end up not doing anything at that point.
Yeah, they're just going to meddle because the reason that they're not overseeing everything else is not because they're too busy with the call sheet. It's because they're not good at it or they don't want to.
Yeah.
If you have a driven head coach making millions of dollars a year and he has any kind of vision or inclination of how to manage the overall organization, that's what he's going to do. If he's not doing it, it's because
he doesn't want to or doesn't know how.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the last thing you probably want is Venables just walk around the hall suddenly sitting in wide receiver rooms and off. It's like that's the thing too. It just seems like everything's wrong here, and
it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. We know exactly what this looks like. I'd say they're treading water, but it doesn't even feel like that. It feels like their head's definitely going under the water several times. I think they're just slowly drowning opposed to treading water right now because these decisions are weird, man.
Yeah, it was funny. Like they did the classic deal. They're poor writers and commentators. They did the classic deal where they lost to Navy in the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows it doesn't really matter. It's just the way it happened. They're just like, this sucks. Our team is terrible. We don't know how to do anything. And then the defensive coordinator left like immediately afterwards. And they're like, Brandon Venables' own people don't want to be here. This is clearly a sinking ship. But as the offseason proceeds, Mateer is a good player.
Right. They sold themselves back in, which is part of being a fan, man.
Deion Burks is going to be healthy. We have this talented young running back where we didn't have difference makers at running back.
The Venables defense is a good defense. He can coordinate.
Venables has the defense on a much better track. They're legitimately good. We have a ton of talent back. And it just goes and goes. And all of the, they start focusing on the little picture. If this just comes together, we know this and this and this is working.
If this guy has a big season.
But as we know from seeing the big picture be wrong and the top guy be wrong in Texas over and over and over again, it's like what happens is the little things that you're trying to fix, sometimes you fix them, and sometimes they end up right. And then something else that you didn't even think about
breaks immediately.
Because there's not there's not the good top-down in control.
There's no cohesiveness.
You have entropy working against you.
Yeah.
Essentially, if I understand entropy properly, which is that's a 40-60 ball, I think.
Yeah, entropy just means if everything stays the same, it's going to get worse. You're fighting the law of entropy. It's gonna erode.
With Texas, I would call it the Murphy's Law program.
Yeah,
which is where it's like,
what can happen will happen.
Yeah, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah.
So you'll figure this out, but then the quarterback gets hurt or whatever, and then
there's a lot of savior ball. It's like, man, if we can just get Jackson Arnold, if we can just get Mateer, there's a lot of it was the same thing with us, if this person come in and save us. Now, there might be a little bit of that with us this year with Arch, honestly, a little bit of hero ball going on, but it's like,
yes,
we're not doing this because, well, we do like to make fun of OU, don't get me wrong, but it's also because we have personal experience with exactly what this looks and feels like, and they seem to be right in the midst of all of that.
You know what else is funny is that Brent Venables was there. So Clemson, they had a little bit of hero ball with like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, but they also had NFL outside receivers. And the reason that they were better again this year is because they finally have outside receivers again. Mm-hmm. And at Clemson, look out for Clemson next year in the national championship race.
Yeah,
because those two guys were freshmen. Yeah. But so Venables is there for that. But he was there for Bob Stoops when they like Mark Clayton turned Jason White into a Heisman winner. You know, and like Sam Bradford was like a 3-star, super accurate game manager. And they won the national championship with Josh Heupel. And he told a story of Josh Heupel like before the Tennessee game, and he was talking about how him and some other guy were watching two guys throw, and they're like, obviously you get this guy. They would like watch Josh Heupel, and they're like, he doesn't even, his ball flutters. He doesn't even look like an athlete. But Mike Leach overrode them and chose Heupel. And they were like, okay, well, we're not in charge of that. And so he's like, it just goes to show what I know. Josh Heupel leads us to the national championship. But it doesn't seem like he actually learned the lesson there. Is this like 5-star Jackson Arnold or uber athlete Mike Hawkins or like proven G5 star Mateer is going to rescue us?
What do you think is going on with their personnel? What do you think is like I said, this is what I thought. OU's not getting guys like they're competing at the top of the SEC. They're scouting like they're a mid-major, like they're Texas Tech, and not even Texas Tech is doing work in the portal. I can't even make fun of them this year. But you get what I'm saying? Like somebody there, it seems like I know OU always needed to find value. They're not the richest school either, and that was kind of the charm of OU is they found value. But this constant well of FCS and low G5s is strange to me.
So they say that their payroll is competitive with like the middle of the SEC.
Okay.
So it's like they'll really, the insiders will really push back on the idea that they're poor. They'll be like, we have like a top 15 payroll. So I think there's two things there.
But if all the top payrolls are in the SEC, who cares?
Well, okay, there's three things there. One is that you are no longer the big fish in the small pond. They also, one of their prime strategies with like Bob Stoops was that they would go to like St. Louis. They would go to the Valley in California. They'd go to Arizona. They'd go to Florida, and they'd hunt in places that didn't have local powers to prevent poachers.
DC.
So, and then they had DFW. So they'd go big in DFW, and they'd have to play heavyweight recruiting ball there. But so people will be like, "Oh, they used to be the only ones cheating, and now they're not the only ones cheating, so they can't outbid everyone anymore." They were already not being able to outbid everybody before NIL, but they had these other methods. Where NIL did hurt them is that now all of a sudden it's like Missouri is dropping bags.
I was going to say Missouri can defend its turf now financially, and that kind of stuff matters.
And everybody is, and now that TV money is getting involved, you've got schools. This is what happened to Texas in this last window. You've got schools that normally wouldn't spend money that suddenly are like anticipating, like, well, we're going to have $8 million to spend on football. Let's see if we can poach Anthony Hill or something, Yeah. Whereas before they would spend like these Big Ten schools that would maybe spend $3 or $4 million and not really care that much. Now it's like, well, I guess let's spend 10, 12 million. Okay. That's going to inflate some stuff.
Yeah.
Another thing is that their money is obviously not allocated very strategically. Like they seem like they're tied up on different spots where it's just like, I don't know from looking at their roster where it is that their money is overly tied down, but you can tell that like there's positions like receiver and tight end where they're like, there's no money left. So we got to bargain hunt. And presumably it's the defense, right? Presumably it's Brent Venables stacking the defense with talent has reduced their salary cap elsewhere. I don't remember how many points that was. I had a bunch of points, and I don't know if I hit them all or not.
We had that. And then the argument, too, of like if all the top spinners in the SEC, it doesn't matter if you're a top 15, if 10 programs ahead of you are top spinners in the SEC, you know. There's
that, and then there's also the fact that it's like we're top 15 in payroll. We're number 12 in payroll. Okay. The problem is that number 12 might be at something like 13 million. I'm just throwing numbers out there, so nobody take this as gospel. Maybe at number 12, that means you're spending like 13 million a year. Okay, but the top 4 or whatever the upper crust is might be spending like 20, 25. So like if you say top 15, it sounds good, but the gulf between top 4,
power law distribution, the top 3 guys are spending so much more than you. Yeah.
And they've said as much. They've said ridiculous things. They're like, Curtis Lofton was resigned from GM, and he was like, oh, if Texas offers $1 million to everybody, what are we supposed to do? And that's not happening. But
that's also not true, because we know how Texas NIL is, of course, our big fish, but we actually know how to build a roster. Everyone's getting paid reasonably, and we're not overpaying in some regards. You know, we'll spend big here, but the point is why we've been successful is our fundraising, but also we're not just blowing it on 2 or 3 positions like that. We'll let you take Dominic Williams, right? We let you win that one. We'll take Lole. We find value better.
I think Texas does have a significantly bigger payroll than almost every other team.
We do. We're in the 20 to 25 range, but we also take care of making sure a guard gets it, you know, and that kind of stuff too matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is very difficult for a lot of schools to work out. I've heard about schools that are having trouble because some positions are getting paid a lot of money because of supply and demand, and other positions are not. And then it's like, well, what the heck? And it's like, sorry.
Well, that's always going to be the case, right? Tackle, edge is always going to be a premium. Quarterback's always going to be a premium. Left tackle is going to be a premium. But you also got to make sure that you're taking care of your non-NFL positions too, and also not getting into silly bidding wars and not getting into, you know, ego recruiting and that kind of stuff.
I have a suspicion. I wonder if the top 20 earners in Oklahoma are wildly skewed to positions where it's like I have no idea what these guys make. Okay, so just hear this. I'm not trying to, but maybe I'll just not use a name. But maybe he's like, I can't let the safety go.
He's important for my scheme.
He's important. He's great. We've invested in him. He's an awesome ball player. It's like, okay, but now we're paying him $900,000, and we don't have any receivers. You know, I'm suspicious that perhaps he's overemphasizing it. From their recruiting results, both in the portal and in high school, I'm strongly suspicious that he's overemphasized defense.
Yeah. All right. I got to go to the dentist.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Well, I got to go to a consultation, and then tomorrow I'll be actually getting work done at the dentist. But all right, fans, thanks for hanging out. We went a little long today, but it was nice. We started it with the recruitment. That's always fun. And then we talked wide receiver, and then Ian was able to give reasoned analysis on the fall of Oklahoma. Sad to see. All right, fans. Yeah, fans, thanks for hanging out. Ian, do you want to say anything before my outro? Or you want me to give the outro and then you can say something?
Have you ever seen those memes where like the husband's like tiptoeing towards the bed and the wife is just laying there quietly, and then he finally lays down, and then she goes, "Can you give me some water?"
Yeah. Yeah, that is what it is. I don't do the good outros. Paul and Justin can cut a take like it's WWE. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Ian, thanks for your reasoned analysis. We appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. Hook 'em.